Welcome back to another Punch Plan video. In this one, we're going to be giving our predictions and thoughts on KSI's return to boxing and as well the entire Misfits Boxing card.
And we're also going to be starting to post more content on our second channel where we'll post clips from this, as well as more exclusive content, so be sure to check out our second channel. And yeah, let's get into it, starting from the main card and from top to bottom. So KSI is going to be taking on Swarmz as well as Lewis, Alcaraz, Pineda, and this is going to be a dual main event, but even though KSI, I think he's going to be starting the main card against Swarmz, and then he's going to be ending with Luis Pineda. Because it's kind of an interesting dynamic because he's supposed to be the headliner, and Swarmz was kind of the one who was really advertised as this main event. But now he's doing the unthinkable and fighting twice in one night. And yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's been a while since he's made it into the ring, almost 3 years ago since he fought Logan Paul. And now he's going to be taking on a short notice opponent in Swarmz as well as another one in Luis Pineda, but he is a pro boxer.
Definitely a big factor for KSI when choosing to fight a pro boxer was to prove to Jake Paul that he would fight one before him. So it's definitely going to be a cool dynamic to see him get back in there and go up against at least an experienced boxer that's had actual fights before. And as well could provide a tricky challenge as he is a young guy. And even though he's got a record of 2-5, he's still looking to get his name out there.
Yeah, even though he is kind of put out there to lose, like he is a journeyman. He has lost 5 fights and he's been stopped in 4 of them. So it's not like this guy's supposed to win. Obviously, this is KSI's return. They're giving him a couple of tune-up fights, some easy fights, and that's why he's fighting 2 times in one night. He wouldn't be fighting 2 guys that are good, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
sure.
It's definitely tune-up fight. Obviously, he's not meant to lose these, and yeah, Luis Pineda, he's smaller than KSI. There's really nothing on him. Like, he's pro boxer. That's all we know. He has a professional record from Mexico. 23 years old, and that's literally all we know. We don't have any footage. We don't know how he fights. We don't know what stance he fights out of. So it's a complete unknown with this guy. But it is only one of his 2 opponents. Obviously, he's fighting Swarmz as well, we don't know much about him either. But to be fair, Swarmz is another fellow influencer, I guess you could say. He's a rapper from the UK, and he has a bit of a name. Not as much of a name as some people would probably hope for an opponent for KSI. But a lot of people were upset with this opponent, so he wanted to add on this pro boxer as well.
Especially if he wants to gain enough experience to be able to fight Jake somewhat in next year. It's definitely a great way for him to catch up fast.
Yeah.
As getting 2 fights in one night is a sure way to gain experience and especially get the rust off, which he's been stated multiple times as his primary goal. And like you said, that's why he's not fighting a great opponent. It's still definitely something to look forward to, as the main excitement, I'd say, for this event and for this fight particularly is that we're seeing KSI come back, and we're going to see if he looks better, how his technique looks, what new attributes he managed to develop throughout, and also as now he's in Shoot Fighters, we're going to see what those attributes that he's gained from there are going to provide for him in the boxing ring. So it's definitely a lot to look forward to. Regardless if you think the opponent's good, bad, whatever you think about it, it's still a really exciting matchup. And the fact that he's fighting twice makes it even better.
Especially like his new gym, as you said, he's with a completely new team. He says he has a completely different style, and that's why a lot of people are excited to see this. Not necessarily for the opponent, but to see KSI. It's the KSI show at the end of the day, whether it was Alex Wasabi, whether it was Swarmz, whether it's Luis Pineda. I mean, people are going to be watching because it's KSI's return. That's the main selling point of this, and it's going to be watched. And it has a great card as well to back it up. FaZe Temperrr versus Slim, Deji versus Fousey, King Kenny versus FaZe Sensei, and many more. So yeah, I do think that this is definitely going to be a big return. Yeah, definitely an affordable, cheap price, and yeah, good. 2 in one night, you can't complain really. Obviously, you can complain about the opponent, but at the end of the day, he's getting back in there. He's going to be trying to become more active, it looks like. And Misfits Boxing looks like they're going to be putting on more cards as they go. Yeah, I do think for KSI versus Swarmz, I think it should be an early stoppage for KSI, like 1 or 2 rounds max. It won't be a good look if it goes even anywhere past that, because I mean, Swarmz is coming in with 3 weeks of preparation total to fight KSI. He's been doing it for multiple years. He's fought Logan Paul 3 years ago. He fought Joe Weller over 4 years ago. Still consistent training, and it's still understanding boxing while Swarmz is coming in here. Who knows? He's been on standby, I guess, for this fight for a couple months, and he's known about it, but he hasn't really been the opponent. It's been Alex Wasabi this whole time. Now it's Swarmz, and I don't think it will be good at all if KSI goes to the decision. I think early on, maybe 1 or 2 rounds max, KSI will be able to get him out there. I do think that KSI wants to get a little bit of ring time in because it is his first time back, and it is his first fight, so he might want to toy with Swarmz, but I think probably 1 or 2. Yeah, that's my prediction.
Mm-hmm. And now for KSI versus Swarmz, I would say my prediction would also be KSI stopping him, as many talks about Swarmz, not necessarily any skill of his, just him being tough, and we're going to see how he's able to withstand KSI, but I think for sure KSI should be able to definitely finish him by any means, and he's gonna be fresh. It's his first fight on the main card. There should be no reason KSI does not finish him. Especially with this fight, his goal should be to make a statement. Especially if the Jake fight's gonna happen next year, he wants to prove to everyone that he could compete and he could fight well and maybe win. So he's definitely gonna have to put an emphasis on this match. So for those reasons, I think KSI by finish.
Yeah, my predictions for KSI against the pro boxer, I'd also say KSI should be stopping him because this guy's a clear journeyman and he is quite lighter than KSI. I think he's fought at a career lowest of 140 pounds. And I mean, KSI's managers came out and said that he weighs 175 pounds. I don't know how good his physique is in that weight class. Regardless, I think KSI should be stopping him. He should be hurting him, maybe not knocking him clean out, but at least getting a TKO, getting a stoppage in this fight. I don't see why you should leave it to the judges. But yeah, like you said, this is probably going to be his second fight. He's going to have a couple of hours to recover, I guess, while the main card goes on.
So my prediction for this fight, I think, is going to be KSI by KO, as if he's been putting in that work over all these years. And against a guy that's been stopped 4 times and is practically there to get highlight reeled, he should have no problem with finishing him. And even though he's going to be coming after a fight previously against Swarmz, which is sure to take out some of the gas tank, and maybe he won't look as fresh as in his first fight, he should definitely have the skill set to put this guy away. So that's what I see it being. And the co-main event of the Misfits Boxing card, FaZe Temperrr versus Slim. Now, originally we know that it was supposed to be FaZe Temperrr versus Blueface. I guess DAZN got him off the card and it couldn't work out. So now we got Slim. That's definitely maybe even a potentially bigger fight, or maybe just better fight, as this was hyped, and this also has history when I think Slim's last fight after he knocked, I'm not sure exactly who it was, but he called out FaZe Temperrr. So this has kind of been building for a little bit, and we saw the face-off between the two. They're definitely going at it, and quite a lot of entertainment. So it's going to be an exciting fight, and both of these guys are like tall, lengthy, good opponents, around the same weight maybe. I know Temperrr's definitely bigger, he's 6'4", but it's going to be a good fight, and both these guys are shown to be and also put on the pedestal of like top fighters in the YouTube boxing scene. So we should definitely expect a good fight from this one, and it's gonna be a tough matchup for both guys.
Yeah, I do think that these guys have a decent history. I think Slim maybe tried to fight Temperrr on one of those Abu Dhabi like social knockout cards, and there was controversy there. And then FaZe Temperrr ended up fighting King Kenny, ended up getting the decision, even though it had to be overturned eventually. Temperrr got it in the end, and it was a great performance, especially for his first fight. Temperrr looked great, and against someone who has been training for over a year, Kenny's a pretty good opponent, and he was able to make pretty easy work of him. So I think definitely FaZe Temperrr is one of the better guys, especially for like a newcomer in the scene. And I think Slim, he's a good opponent as well. He's 3-0 in YouTube boxing. He has, I think, all of his fights are stoppages. Yeah, which obviously, like you said, his opponents may not be the greatest caliber. He's still getting the job done. He's still getting in there, and now he's actually going to be fighting one of these top guys. So you got to give that respect to Slim. He's taking this risk. It's a pretty big risk, in my opinion, and taking it on short notice, as you said. Yeah, I think just the attributes of Temperrr and him being 6'4", him having like a history in martial arts, in Muay Thai or whatever he had in the past. I feel like he knows it a bit more, and he's more familiar, and I think he might just be more natural than Slim at boxing. Yeah, I think also him being southpaw is another attribute that I think we don't really know how Slim would perform under. But yeah, there's a couple of questions here, but I think Temperrr is definitely the favorite in this.
Yeah, I'd probably have to agree, especially with what we saw against a pretty high-quality opponent in King Kenny compared to Slim's opponents, at least. He was able to put in good work, it looked good, use his size, use his reach well, found different angles, so definitely performed quite well for his debut. So I feel like could definitely cause Slim some issues, but we're going to see during the fight.
Yeah, but credit to Slim. I mean, he's been promoting this fight very well, especially because he just got in here. I don't know if it's 3 weeks notice, like 2 weeks notice, a very short notice for Slim, but he's already coming in and he's trying to put on a show, which credit to him, he's promoting a lot, even though he's one of these guys that a lot of people were putting down as he doesn't really have a big name as some of these guys like Temperrr or Kenny. Yeah, credit to him, he's promoting this fight. But for my prediction, I'm going to have to go with FaZe Temperrr. I think he'll get it done by decision. I think he definitely has good timing, he has good accuracy, but I don't know if he'll be able to stop him. These are in 10-ounce gloves and no headgear, so that's definitely going to be a factor. But personally, I think what we saw against King Kenny. We saw Temperrr kind of have a more counter punching style. He's more in the back foot. He's more trying to find his distance and just keep range on his opponents, which against Slim, who has pretty long arms, we're going to see how that fares. He has a decent reach as well. So I think it's definitely a great match, but yeah, I got Temperrr by decision.
Yeah, I was a bit torn between maybe Temperrr late stoppage maybe or decision, but I think I might end up with decision, as even though it's like a pro fight, well, technically not on records, but they still have the same ounce gloves, no headgear as a pro fight. It's definitely more dangerous territory than FaZe Temperrr's last fight, but I feel like it's still gonna go to decision. As we saw, even though Temperrr was able to land good shots on Kenny and found different openings to throw a couple combinations at him and landed, I don't think it'll be enough to put Slim away, as we really haven't seen Slim face any adversity, as the opponents, of course, have not been up to par. So it's kind of hard to say, but I think we might see that in this upcoming fight. However, I think I'm going to have to say FaZe Temperrr by decision.
Yeah, I do think for Slim, it is, I think a good place for him in this fight will be to get in the inside. Obviously, Temperrr is the taller fighter, and we saw him kind of struggle with that when Kenny was coming on the inside and throwing kind of more looping shots, not necessarily the straight 1-2s, the jabs, the straights down the pipe, which I guess Slim is also a little bit more wild than Kenny, I guess you could say. Just his style in general, at least what we saw from his last couple of fights. I think that's definitely a key to success for him to get on the inside, kind of roughen Temperrr up. I don't think that Temperrr would like that. He likes to keep his range, he likes to keep his distance, and like I said, counter punch.
And now possibly the most anticipated fight on the card, with KSI not fighting Alcaraz anymore. It's Deji versus Fousey. So this is definitely a match that people are looking forward to, and quite a funny fight, as both guys have not won a match in the YouTube boxing scene. Of course, we know Deji is 0-3, having lost to Jake Paul, Vinny Hacker, and as well now recently Alex Wasabi, who KSI was supposed to fight, and Fousey in his debut lost to Slim. So we're definitely gonna see one of these guys look for redemption.
This is such a good fight.
It's definitely a really good fight. I feel like both of these guys are gonna come with as much passion as possible, as it could be their last fight in the scene. It's really hard to see if Deji loses another fight. He keeps going, as at this point it would just be a running gag. It's a bit much. 0-4, come on, like at that point. But and also Fousey 0-2, so it's kind of like a win or go home type situation. And it's gonna be exciting one to see, as we see that Fousey's in fantastic shape. We've seen some pictures of Deji, and he's looking strong. We saw that he's lifting weights, so I feel like both guys are gonna come in here mentally prepared, ready, and just gonna go for it.
Yeah, this is a perfect matchup, the battle for redemption, even though that's been kind of the cue of all of Deji's fights, to be honest, since the Jake Paul fight. But it honestly is, because both these guys are guys that are not known to be the greatest in the YouTube boxing sphere. But that's what makes it so exciting, because these guys are two guys with huge name. Both guys have respective over 10 million subscriber channels. And yeah, I mean, this is a great fight. We got Deji. It's a kind of a short comeback. I mean, it's almost 5 months, a little bit over 5 months since he fought Alex Wasabi, which isn't that long ago. It's hard to see him make that much strides since then. But a big key for Deji, especially in that fight, was his mentality, the mental side of things. I feel like he didn't really get over that Vinny Hacker fight where he gassed out, where he had to take a knee, and he was very tired. He was very sloppy, and I think he kind of second-guessed himself. He didn't really go for it in that fight. He didn't let his hands go. He didn't really impose himself at all. He was getting roughed up in the clinch, and I just think Deji has to come out different in this fight, and I definitely think Fousey has that mental edge. He has that mental game prepared. Like you said, he's in the best physique of his life. He's in the best shape. I don't know if the loser will go home, like you're saying, because I think regardless, these guys are gonna try again, win or lose. I think Deji for sure will definitely come back. I mean, it's repeated already this many times. I don't see him stopping until he at least gets a win. And I mean, to be fair, Fousey's looking to be a decent opponent and a tough challenge, so he's got to really show up here if he wants to get this win. And I think the X's and O's, Fousey's, I guess, a little bit taller, a little bit bigger, and has probably that mental edge. So I don't know. It's definitely a good fight, but I feel like Fousey might just have the X factor here. However, especially discussing Fousey's last fight against Slim, he definitely didn't look good. He was a human punching bag, but that was a while ago. That was over 3 years ago probably. And yeah, it's been quite some time since then. He's completely changed his life around. So I do see this as a pretty great fight, and I think whoever wins this is definitely gonna have a great time.
Yeah, like my question for this, I don't know how good these guys are gonna be technically speaking. However, you did say you don't know how much they're gonna change in 5 months for Deji compared to his last fight. However, I feel it could be true, but I also think he could. This is definitely quite a bit of time, and he had the time to make strides. And you know how they were coming out and
Yeah.
saying that he really only had 2 weeks with Daly, and now he's had all this time. So if we see a better Deji with a better mentality coming out there, and the main issue last time, he was too scared to throw his hands, more just defensively, but in a way where you're not looking to give anything back.
Also with a new defensive or a new strength and conditioning coach with Leon.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like we could definitely see some improvements all around, not just boxing wise, but also mentality wise for Deji, and it could definitely be a really good fight. And as well, Fousey, we saw before that his technique was a bit iffy. It didn't look the
Yeah.
greatest, but I feel it's been time. However, I'm a bit worried about that, even though regardless, it has been time since that older footage where we saw Fousey on the pads, on the bag. But if he's able to improve, it could definitely be a close fight.
Yeah, I think what it really comes down to is Deji. He's probably going to be the better technical boxer. He's done it longer. He's been more active. He's had even though he's obviously came out short, he's at least done more boxing than Fousey has over the past couple of months and past couple of years, I should say. But I just think the difference in this is the mentality of Fousey. Who's gonna want it more? Who's gonna have the bigger heart? We saw even in Fousey's last fight. When you do look at that, the heart he showed, he was not giving up. He was going on nonstop, coming forward for 4 rounds, getting his nose broken, getting absolutely obliterated, getting his face destroyed, right? And he wasn't stopping. He wasn't backing down. I feel like Fousey's definitely gonna have the heart. He's not going to stop, and no matter what happens, I feel like he's going to want it more than Deji. And I feel like, even though Deji's definitely going to want this redemption, he's going to want to win this, I just don't see him wanting it as much as Fousey, because, I mean, no matter what, he's going to get another opportunity regardless. He's going to get on another undercard, another card, whatever it is. And that will lead me into my prediction. I think Fousey's going to take this. I don't know how he's going to get it done. I don't see him stopping Deji. I definitely think he has more power than Deji. Just I think that raw power of Fousey's is better. He's a naturally bigger guy as well. That's another factor, the weight of this fight. Deji's actually moving up in weight since his last fight, which is a bit, I don't really know how I feel about that since his Alex Wasabi fight, but he is putting on muscle with Leon, his new strength and conditioning coach. But yeah, I think Fousey will get this done. I think he'll get it by decision. I think he'll want it more. I think he'll especially later on. He's been running a lot, and I feel like his cardio will be up to standard, even though he has a big physique. I think he'll be able to get the job done and probably beat Deji by decision.
My prediction for this fight is going to be Deji by decision, as I feel technique-wise, he's above Fousey. And even though, as I said before, he has time to change and time to improve with his boxing coach and building from the ground up, I still don't see Fousey being able to catch up enough with Deji. And even though Deji has lost every single fight he's had, it's still at least learnings, and at least if he actually takes it properly, and at least it's time to improve as a boxer. All that time is gotta add up, and I feel like his time with Daly will pay off, as it seems like he's training good guys there, he's sparring good opposition, and I feel like it'll be enough for Deji to take it.
And another great fight on this card is King Kenny taking on FaZe Sensei, which this is a highly anticipated return for FaZe Sensei, as we haven't seen him in the ring for about 4 years since he was on the undercard of KSI versus Logan Paul. And Sensei is an interesting fighter in this YouTube boxing scene. He originally fought over at Flow, but he has that mixed martial arts experience of being a sensei, and he's done kickboxing, he's done MMA, he's done boxing. He's been around the scene, he's been around different combat sports, different martial arts, and he definitely has that natural ability. And I think that it's going to be an interesting fight with him against King Kenny, who's, a kind of a newcomer in the scene, but he's also been taking it very seriously. He's been training with real professionals. He has a professional team, professional camp. He had a great fight against FaZe Temperrr, who was kind of taken under the wing of Sensei, which is kind of crazy to think that now he's fighting the master in FaZe Sensei, I guess you could say. But yeah, this is definitely a huge props to Kenny for taking this fight even.
Yeah, and FaZe Sensei has definitely been looked as kind of boogeyman sort of thing in the scene, as he originally trained with KSI when he started, and as well with everyone. He was kind of the guy that they went to in the beginning for just some tips and some sparring sessions. So it's definitely great to see that he's back. It's definitely very exciting that he's back, and we've
He's
been
one of the
looking for
original
it.
ones to help
Yeah, he's
KSI against Joe
for
Weller.
sure. He's one of the pioneers in the scene, and it's great to see that he's getting back in there. But King Kenny will definitely be a hard fight for him, I think, as using that range, that distance, and the reach he has on him. I feel like it could definitely play into something that might interrupt FaZe Sensei when they fight. However, I feel like this is definitely gonna be. It could definitely be a very competitive fight with both guys having trained in training camps, being ready, fight ready. I think it's gonna be really good.
Yeah, I mean, personally, when I watch the two fight, I see FaZe Sensei. He's elusive. He's fast. He's good. I just see a better technical boxer than Kenny. But at the same time, I mean, Kenny's been more active. He's been in the gym more, especially recently. And I think those factors are going to add up. I think King Kenny is definitely, he's making the strides in boxing. He's getting in the ring. He's sparring. He's been working since a year now, maybe 2 years now. So it's been a bit of time for King Kenny of training boxing. It's definitely going to make for an interesting match. I feel like a lot of people see this as very one-sided for FaZe Sensei. I don't necessarily see that. I do think that he's definitely going to be the favorite going into this, but I don't know if it's going to be a dominant decision for him or a dominant victory for him. I think it's definitely going to be an interesting one, and I think that King Kenny definitely has a chance. He's not one to really count out. He showed against FaZe Temperrr. He definitely has heart. He definitely has that will to win, and he also has that dog. He's gonna come out later in that fight against FaZe Temperrr. When he was down, he tried to do something. He tried to get on the inside, roughing him up, throw short shots, throw more wild shots. You can see that he wanted to win that fight, even though he didn't really end up getting the decision there. He still showed that he was a great fighter in the scene. I think him versus FaZe Sensei is definitely interesting.
In this fight, I think what we might see in the YouTube boxing scene that's kind of a level above maybe some of the other fights on the card is I feel like these guys are capable of making adjustments during the fight and are able to adapt to what their opponent is giving them pretty much. And I feel like FaZe Sensei definitely has the IQ and experience to be able to pull that off. And I feel like Kenny has the ability to also pull that off during the fight. So we might see a very high level fight. Could potentially be one of the highest skilled fights on the card. So definitely be really great. I'm really excited for this fight personally, as I feel like we're gonna see a high display,
one to look out for.
A high level of boxing skill for our YouTube boxing space, and it's gonna be really good.
Yeah, and for being the fourth fight on the card, it's definitely a great fight. And personally, for my prediction, I'm gonna go with FaZe Sensei. I think personally he's gonna stop King Kenny. I think it might be later, but especially this is going to be a professional fight. It's going to be 10-ounce gloves. We're going to be seeing 3-minute rounds, and I don't know if King Kenny's going to be able to last the whole fight with FaZe Sensei. FaZe Sensei, as we've been saying, he's a veteran in the space. He's been here for a long time. Obviously, he hasn't really been training just purely boxing because he's a sensei. He has, jobs outside of this whole thing, and he doesn't really commit to it. But he's had multiple training camps in this thing. He's had that training camp against Overflow. He had that training camp against Josh Bruckner, even though that fight didn't even end up happening and he had a broken rib. He still trained for that. He still got that experience of boxing, and I still think, he had those kickboxing matches. I think just the experience of FaZe Sensei overall and what he's been doing recently, I think also with this training camp, he's definitely training very hard. You see he's in phenomenal shape leading up to it. I think he's going to stop King Kenny probably later on into the fight. But yeah, I think FaZe Sensei gets it done, even though I do think early on especially it could be pretty competitive.
I'm also going to say FaZe Sensei, however, I don't think he's going to be able to finish him. I think it'll be by decision. And I feel like Kenny's definitely going to be a durable guy in there. We've seen him take some decent shots from FaZe Temperrr and stay in there. Obviously, he's cut in the different circumstances here. But I think he'll have the capability to stay in the fight, take some good shots. And I think he'll be able to give back and also be very competitive. Be able to give off his good combinations as well. And it's going to be, like I said many times, a high-level fight.
And even besides those couple of fights, there's a pretty stacked undercard on this entire event. This entire event is just full of a great card with a lot of name value, a lot of high name value, a lot of people that people are very excited to see. We got Deen the Great fighting, Salt Papi fighting, Sam Hyde fighting, and obviously the ones that we just mentioned and we just went over. So I think this is definitely a great fight. Personally, for the Salt Papi fight, I'm definitely excited for that. He showed up great in the Showstar card. He's going to be taking on Andy Warski.
Yeah, he's definitely a very exciting fighter, and as well, yeah, a big fan favorite, as people thought he was the best fighter on the Showstar event and the most exciting. So I think a lot of people are going to be looking forward to that, me as well. And I think he's going to be showing a great display, as if you've been keeping up, he's definitely has a lot of videos and footage out there of him looking quite skilled for the scene. And it looks like he's improving. He's lost a lot of weight for this fight, and
Yeah, recent
I think he's
transformation.
going to do well.
Yeah, and he's fighting an opponent, Andy Warski, who's been training very hard. He's also been putting out some promotional videos. He's not looking bad either. He's been looking pretty good, and I think this is definitely going to be a great fight. I think that Papi will probably get the job done. However, I'm going to take him for this fight. I don't know much about Andy Warski. We don't really know much, but yeah, he's definitely going to be a game opponent in there with Papi. Definitely a better opponent than the last one he had.
Yeah, I think Papi is going to get the W, and I think he'll be able to finish him, actually, as what I've seen from him, he's looked pretty skilled and showed that he's improving quite rapidly, so I'm going to be excited for that.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be able to finish him. I think Andy Warski's kind of a guy who's going to be a dog. He's going to be a little bit more durable than some people are going to think, but I do think it's going to be a masterclass by Papi, especially because of the experience we've seen him show. And then next on for the undercard, there's Deen the Great versus Evil Hero, which is another great fight. We're finally seeing Deen the Great making his debut in YouTube boxing, which he's been hyped a lot, especially he's been taking under the wing of Keemstar and Fousey as a Happy Punch Promotions fighter representative. He was the first one they had, and they had him for a while up until now, and yeah, it's definitely going to be exciting to see him compete. He came from that street YouTube boxing, I guess you could say, kind of scene, and he kind of has that experience that's pretty interesting. He looks like a very high level boxer, especially for this YouTube boxing stuff. He's very slick, he's skilled. You can see the natural talent for him, and yeah, I think this is going to be interesting to see his debut against Evil Hero.
Yeah, from what we've seen from Deen, it looks like he's quite fast, especially for that lower weight class. It looks like he was going to use that to his advantage, and it's definitely going to be a good fight with him versus Evil Hero, as we saw some things of Evil Hero on the pads, and he looked pretty decent as well.
Yeah, pretty fast, actually. Pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly. So this is going to be quite good. I think we're going to see both guys show skill here.
Yeah, I think for Evil Hero, his last fights didn't necessarily look that great, but I think against Deen the Great, he's definitely going to come in more prepared. But I do still see Deen the Great getting the job done. Probably by decision. I don't really know if he has really the power to get Evil Hero out of there, even though these are 10-ounce gloves, to be fair. I think Evil Hero might be one of the more durable guys. He'll be able to outlast him. Maybe not outlast him, but last the whole fight. And yeah, I see Deen the Great getting it done by decision.
I think Deen the Great will also be able to get it done by decision, as, like you mentioned, I don't think he has the pop to his punches and the power to get him out of there necessarily. But I think he's going to show a good display, and I think that's what's going to get him the win. Next is quite a fun fight with Sam Hyde versus IAMTHMPSN, which we don't know too much about, but I know that Sam Hyde is quite the prankster. And we saw some footage where it looked like he was just trolling on the bag, but not too much known. However, I feel like it's definitely going to be a funny fight.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are huge. I don't really know much about IAMTHMPSN. Sam Hyde, I know he's been signed to Happy Punch Promotions. He's more of a troll character, as you've been saying, and yeah, I think he's probably going to be the one to get the win here. I think he's been training boxing for a while. I know there's the stuff of him training with Harley from Epic Mealtime ahead of his fight for the Creator Clash. So I think he's been doing this for a while. I'm not really sure. I think that stuff is probably just troll, but yeah, not really sure too much about this fight. There hasn't really been much on either guy that's come out, but I think Sam Hyde will probably get the job done.
Due to me not really knowing too much and us not having that much footage, I'm also just going to say Sam Hyde. However, could, to be fair, go to either guy.
Yeah, and this is heavyweights, so we don't really... anything could really happen. These guys are pretty big. So yeah, this card has a lot of great matchups from top to bottom, pretty much. There's also these ICB influencer titles that are going to be on the line for a couple of these fights, like KSI's, Temperrr's, pretty sure King Kenny's, and maybe Deen the Great's, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, this is going to be an exciting night of fights, and exciting for YouTube boxing to really come back, because there's been a lot of canceled events. Social Gloves got canceled, Jake Paul's event got canceled, this one Alex Wasabi pulled out, so there's been a lot of controversy, and even the main event had a bit of controversy at the beginning with KSI and what was Ivan Nikolov, who don't really got to get into. But yeah, I think this is definitely a great card, a very stacked card, and one to see KSI return in the boxing ring with a great undercard, a great lineup of fights, and I think this is definitely a great night.
Yeah, so let us know down below what your predictions are for these upcoming matchups on the Misfits Boxing card, and if you're excited to see KSI get back into the ring.
And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the content, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to stay updated with everything YouTube boxing.